Hey kids, are you bored being in school and doing legal things? Well, I think it's time to get illegal. Let's go. Okay, first step to being illegal. Cook a nice curry.
My Hero Academia Vigilantes, also known as My Hero Academia Illegals in Japan, is one of only 4 Hero Aka spin-offs, and by far the most popular one. A few curious facts: as opposed to the one-man effort that is the main manga, Vigilantes is made by 3 people. Hideyuki Furuhashi writes the story, Bettencourt draws the art, and series creator Kohei Horikoshi checks to make sure everything remains correct and nothing is stupid. It is also one of the only 2 overtly canon side stories, as it is a direct prequel to My Hero Academia. And it is the only one where people regularly told me it's actually so much better than the main manga, I promise. This is all very high praise, especially to me, who considers the main manga a very good 9 out of 10. Yeah, it's not a perfect 10, bitches. So what? So, a few weeks ago, I decided to binge read and catch up on it so I can answer the question, is it better than My Hero Academia? Alright, let's hold our horses. What's this manga even about? Vigilantes follows the story of Koichi Haimawari, a college student who, due to his weak quirk, gave up on his dreams of becoming a hero, or so it would seem. At night, he dons an All Might hoodie and helps keep his neighborhood safe. Not a hero, not a villain, but a vigilante, someone who uses his quirk for heroism without a license. Together with a gruff mentor and a jumpy love interest, he seeks to keep his home district safe and happy. Immediately you can notice how this series focuses on a completely different angle of the Hero Aka world. The main manga very much deals with extremes, the elite students and the nefarious villains. Meanwhile, Vigilantes is about the average, the normal, the general population and how they get by in a superhuman society. That is pretty cool, since it automatically makes the spin-off a world-building goldmine. Additionally, as a prequel, it has to try and avoid the prequel trap. It can't do a grand world-changing narrative because at the end, everything has to be as it is at the start of Hero Aka. Vigilantes solves this by not trying to tell a big story where the world is saved or whatever. It instead opts for a much smaller, intimate narrative of just a group of wannabe heroes keeping their district of Tokyo, Naruhata, safe from evildoers. This, in theory, frees Vigilantes up to explore much more personal narratives in a much more down-to-earth setting. Okay, let's get back on our horse. Is My Hero Academia Vigilantes better than My Hero Academia? No, it's not even close. Like, nah. Don't get me wrong, there is some good shit in here. Knuckle Duster and Number 6 are 2 of the best characters in this entire series, possibly the entire franchise. Knuckle Duster's journey to regaining his family is incredibly touching and leads to some genuinely moving moments. Meanwhile, 6 is a disturbing proto-Shigaraki, embodying a similar idea on a much more personal scale. Both of these characters are insanely cool in their own right, and the scenes in which they encounter and clash are some of the highest peaks this manga hits. Additionally, with the setting and prequel status comes a plethora of little world-building tidbits as we see how the general population lives and gets by their days, which is cool. It expands the world of Hero Aka in a really nice way. And lastly, while it isn't extensively explored, Koichi's relationship to Pop Step is genuinely adorable, and I had fun every single time that was actually brought up. But this is as much nice stuff as I have to say about it. While I overall would say that I had a decent amount of fun reading Vigilantes, there were several things that really bothered me. And because I am of course the mega fan of the main manga, I am inclined to be quite critical of this spin-off since it is in direct comparison with the main manga. Like, I know perhaps it is not fair, but at the end of the day this is a spin-off under the My Hero Academia title, so it's pretty much impossible to not compare it to My Hero Academia. For one, this might be one of the most unnecessarily overly wordy manga I have read in ages. Now, I don't mind reading, I am a literature student after all, but I like my texts to be meaningful and to serve a purpose. A big quality of good writing is that it conveys its message with the exact right amount of writing, not too little and certainly not too much. Vigilantes squarely falls into the latter camp. There are pages that are literally flooded with speech bubbles, which wouldn't be a problem by itself, but because so much of the dialogue in this manga is pretty much superfluous, it ends up being a chore to read. I am not kidding when I say that you could easily cut out every third speech bubble here and the story would not change. Vigilantes waste so much time and space on characters and subplots and jokes and gags that go nowhere and don't contribute anything to the grander narrative. It's dreadfully inefficient, not to mention annoying. It spends so much time with people just talking about things that just don't matter. And you could say that, okay, it's just there to make things feel realer. Fair enough, but at the end of the day, there is the good old razor. If you show it, it has to be useful, and if it isn't useful, don't show it. The grander narrative I mentioned earlier is another issue. Vigilantes is a manga about nothing. There is no central idea or thesis that is being developed or questioned, no core that holds it all together. Sure, occasionally some interesting thematic ideas are broached, but none of them have enough presence or saliency to constitute as a main theme. The closest we ever get is the question of what it means to find your identity and how to live up to your own potential. But that is 80 chapters into the series and comes up only about twice. There simply isn't much of a thematic point to this story, which turns this manga into an extensive and exhaustive exercise in flavor text. That god-awful Walmart subplot takes up like half the manga and it literally means nothing. This isn't helped by the fact that most of the cast feel quite thin. Aside from Knuckle Duster, Six, and maybe Captain Celebrity, all the original cast feels forgettable and one-dimensional. Koichi is endearing at first, but that's kind of it. There is very little to him, and this extends to most characters. Don't get me wrong, there are compelling character motives and compelling character moments, but they are very isolated, and again, they don't constitute for the majority of this manga. Which leaves us with the returning characters, the cast we know from the main manga making an appearance here in the prequel. Now, before I say anything, I am not an artist, so I don't want to sound too harsh. But, after having seen the world of Hero Aka through Horikoshi's lens for 6 years, Bettencourt's art style simply doesn't do it for me. Everyone who is exclusive to this manga like Koichi or Six look great, but people like All Might just don't feel quite right. Perhaps it is that the style is much more reminiscent of Western comics, but something about the proportions and the line art, and especially the sizes of certain things, just don't work for me. But more than looks, many of the characters also act kind of strange. The best example for this is Endeavor. Since this is a prequel, this takes place years before he ever actually starts becoming a better person. However, at the start of the main manga, we are told that Endeavor is the number 2 despite his gruff demeanor due to his exceptional track record as he cooperates with police efforts to solve case after case. In Vigilantes, this supposed paragon of efficiency is introduced by having him ignore police orders, tell Tsukauchi to go fuck himself, and then trying to murder a non-villain just out of impatience. I'm sorry, this is out of character. I'm sorry, Furuhashi, I don't believe that this is the Endeavor that we know from the main story. He's a piece of shit, yes, but he wouldn't do something that would compromise his standing as a hero. He might want to kill someone just out of spite, but he wouldn't do it because he would know that that would be a public incident. Endeavor is evil and shitty. He's not an idiot. So stuff like this is just odd, and it feels weird when you know the main story. Alright, I have to talk about the Aizawa thing. For context, in late Hero Aka, there is a plot twist regarding one of Aizawa's childhood friends that for many falls completely flat because that friend had only been mentioned in passing like once before. There is no context to this person within the main manga of Hero Aka. That context, that backstory, are instead relegated to this manga here, Vigilantes. I was pretty annoyed when I found out about this, because of course, separating two pieces of writing that reinforce each other is never a good idea. In fact, it's a big amateur mistake. But people assured me that the Aizawa flashback just had to be in Vigilantes. Well, now that I've read it, you're full of shit. No, this flashback has no business being here. Before reading this, I was always on the opinion that the flashback belongs into the main manga. Not only was this opinion of mine confirmed, but also this flashback does not belong in Vigilantes. In the main manga, it would inform and reinforce a twist that fell quite flat without it. In fact, I would say the twist requires this knowledge to even work. In Vigilantes, Aizawa sees a cat, has a 10-chapter flashback, and then exits the story. It's actually baffling how mismatched it is. If I didn't know any better, I would almost assume that this arc was written for the main manga but then thrown into Vigilantes for some reason. It's genuinely grating and really annoying, and even while the arc itself is enjoyable enough, I couldn't shake this feeling, and that obviously impacted my enjoyment. So, should you read Vigilantes like I did? If you really want more Hero Aka, and if you really want to see more of the world, sure, go for it. If you don't really vibe with the school setting of Hero Aka and you would rather see something more akin to, I guess, Spider-Man, the metropolitan friendly neighborhood myth, then yeah, I am sure you could have fun with it. But I wouldn't recommend it for any other reason. It's fine, it's kind of pointless, but if you have time to kill, it's alright, I guess. I had a few issues with it, but if you're not as obsessed with this franchise like I am, I'm sure you'll get more out of it. 6 out of 10, just read the novels instead.